Hey everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to continue our constructed set review of the Brothers War with Red. So for each one of the cards I am talking about, I'm not going to give it a grade or anything. I'm just going to talk about the role it might have in a constructed format or creating new decks. And the cards I don't think are going to make a splash in constructed, I'm just not going to mention. So let's jump right into it. Brotherhood's End is 3 mana, 1 generic, 2 red. It's a sorcery. It says choose one. Brotherhood's End deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, or destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. Slag Storm effects have existed in constructed formats for a long time. You know, this is definitely going to be played as a sideboard card in standard decks, you know, as this like double effect of like, you know, a board wipe for go wide decks and a board wipe for artifact decks. I could definitely see this being played in Pioneer as basically this card that has multiple modes. It might not be the best at either one of these modes, either like a board wipe or destroying artifacts, but cards that have a lot of width like that, I definitely want to be playing in my sideboards because it's kind of 2 sideboard slots for 1. Maybe this could go to Modern. There has to be something like better in Modern though, right? Yeah, Brothers' End is definitely going to be played. Feldon, Ronom, Excavator, is 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red, is a legendary creature, human artificer, has haste. Feldon, Ronom, Excavator. What is it? It's hard to say. Can't block. Whenever Feldon is dealt damage, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Choose one of them until end of turn. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card, and it's a 2/2. So 2 mana 2/2s with haste have been played in red aggressive decks right along. I think the extra text on this card is gravy. If you are in the business of needing 2/2 2 mana with haste, then you play this card. And when it does that extra ability, when it has that extra text, then you're happy. So this could be played as a 1 or 2 of, you know, in these aggressive red decks as just this aggressive creature with slight upside. Mishra's Command is absolutely insane. It is X and red, sorcery. It says choose 2. Choose target player. They may discard up to X cards. Then they draw a card for each card discarded this way. Or this spell deals X damage to target creature. Or this spell deals X damage to target planeswalker. Or target creature gets +X/+0 and gains haste until the end of turn. This is the first command we've looked at in these constructed set reviews that all 4 modes of it are relevant in constructed. You get to filter your draws, you know, by discarding and drawing bad cards, or discarding bad cards and drawing new cards. It's a removal spell for creatures and a removal spell for planeswalkers, and can pump something up to kill our opponent. At its absolute worst, it's 1 mana give haste to something, which it can be relevant in and of itself. I think this is going to be played in red control decks, if there ever is any, red mid-range decks, and red aggressive decks. All of those decks want this card in standard. I think it could even be played in Pioneer, because Pioneer is lacking like fireball effects with like other things going on, which is what Mishra's Command is. Like there's so many options with Mishra's Command. It is so cheap for what it wants to do. This card's incredible and is going to be definitely a format-defining card the whole time it is in standard. Visions of Phyrexia is 4 mana, 2 red, 2 generic, and enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library and play that card this turn. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't play a card in exile this turn, create a tapped Power Stone token. So this card, you know, is like many other cards that have come before it, like Outpost Siege and things like that. It's possible mid-range or control red decks are going to be playing it as like 1 or 2 of in the main deck. It is mostly going to be a sideboard card for matchups that you expect to be grindy. Even for aggro decks might play this card in their sideboard for these grindy matchups. It's just, for aggro decks at least, it basically reads as draw a card every turn. So you don't want to play this in large numbers, and you don't want to play this probably in the main deck even for these aggro decks, because you just want to kill your opponents in most matchups. But if you know it's going to be grindy, this is a great card. You know, the Power Stone thing is cute and cool, and a little bit different. Arms Race is 4 mana, is 3 generic and 1 red, an enchantment. And for 3 generic and 1 red, you may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. That artifact gains haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So this is just like a artifact show and tell for a lot more mana, to be fair. This has to have a home in at least standard and Pioneer, maybe Modern. I assume some artifact payoffs are going to be printed at some point. I bet there are already artifact payoffs in Pioneer. You know, but the issue with a card like this, with an 8 mana investment over the course of 2 turns, whatever card that you put onto the battlefield needs to be absolutely insane and needs to be a game ender. So until cards like that are printed in the formats, this card is awful. When those cards are printed, which you probably need multiple, the card is absolutely insane. But keep an eye on Arms Race. It might be the sleeper of the set in that it might not be played immediately, but as cards are printed in these formats, it could pop out all of a sudden. Giant Cindermaw is 3 mana, 2 generic, 1 red. Is a dinosaur beast with trample. It says players can't gain life and is a 4/3. I could see this played like maybe in some number in the main deck of aggressive decks, at least as a sideboard card in aggressive red decks. This card will totally depend on how decks deal with aggressive decks. If they're just removing creatures and trying to kill the aggressive decks as fast as possible, this card will be bad. If their game plan is to remove the creatures and gain life or something, this card gains stock as a sideboard card. I can see this card existing in the sideboards of these red decks. Monastery Swiftspear is back in Standard. This is a love of mine. It is 1 red human monk with haste and prowess. And it's a 1/2. Prowess saying that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. This is a staple in Modern. This is a fine card in Legacy, I guess, if you want to play Burn in Legacy. This is a staple in Pioneer, and now it is back in Standard. This can be played in every single red aggressive deck as a 4/of. If you play Magic the Gathering, you have played against this card, and I don't know what else to say about it. Obliterating Bolt is 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red. It is a sorcery. An Obliterating Bolt deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. Effects like this have existed throughout Magic's history. They are always played in the sideboard of aggressive decks, maybe in the main deck of mid-range or control red decks. Again, being a primarily sideboard and a reactive card, it'll depend on what cards are doing well. If there's a lot of 4 toughness things, that you don't want to play Lightning Strike against, or if there are a lot of things that, like, when they die, they do something, cards like this you want to play. If not, then you play less of it. Sardine Cliff Stomper is 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red. Is a Minotaur Barbarian, and as long as it's your turn and you control 4 or more mountains, Sardinian Cliff Stomper gets +X/+O, where X is the number of mountains you control. You play this in the mono red deck, right? I mean, that's it. I could totally see this being a premier 2-drop in the standard mono red list, where you only play mountains, and every single mountain that you play, this card gets even better. I don't even think you need to build around it in the sense that, like, you need to, like, play extra lands or anything like that. Like, this as a 2 mana, like, 4/4 is awesome on turn 4. I could see this being a true premier 2-drop in these red decks. It also blocks great in the mirror match, right? Like, you talk about just like having 4 toughness for 2 mana and then also getting huge, by turn 4 or 5. That's great mana investment. So those are the cards in red in the Brothers War that I think are going to be making a splash in constructed formats. Did I miss anything? What do you think of the video? Please let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I love making Magic the Gathering content for all of you. Also, check me out on other social medias. Links are above me and in the description. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.